the CTA. I probably have
Oh,
blockers. I probably have something I'm unsure of, right? We had yesterday. Yesterday we did a stand up, right?
mhm.
And the stand up, uh, in my opinion, I thought it helped like getting everybody's stuff out, right? But some folks did say that maybe using the Google form could work more efficiently. So that's why I went ahead and did a Google form here. With that said, did yesterday's stand up help you guys like going through chronologically like how you're doing in the project?
I thought it was good. It kind of helped. It was helpful to see like other people's perspectives on the project, and there were some problems that I haven't gotten to yet. That when somebody like brought up, maybe they were either further ahead or they were working on a different aspect of it than me, and they brought up ideas that weren't really not ideas, but like problems that weren't really in my peripheral yet, and I was like, it made me consider them before I have to ask for help later on.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So
Cool.
I think maybe it could have been, the only thing I would say is it could have been maybe broken up into 2 sessions.
Okay.
Because some every once in a while we have like a question or a person whose questions like need a more in-depth answer. So
Right.
I think it went longer than prediction, but I think it was helpful.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. Good. Thank you for that. And again, if you guys want to drop feedback, like DM me or Sloan or Aaron or Antonio, any of the team members, you could always DM us directly if you think something could work better, if it worked well. We want to get feedback either way, especially now remotely. Like if something doesn't work correctly, let us know. If it works great, let us know either way. Does that make sense? Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Sounds good.
All right. Always looking for
So
feedback
you
here.
just want feedback regardless, correct?
Yeah, feedback regardless. It helps us really like make that thing work there, especially now remotely, right? Okay, so moving on here to the responses we have. Question 1 says, I'm having an issue with the unit testing requiring a Firebase module. This is exactly what we went through today.
That's
right?
me.
Cool, so that helps you, right, Amini?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Next we have, can we just favorite it on the detail view? Haha. Instead of both detail view and cell, right? Seems redundant. With that one, let's stick to that rubric here. We want to favorite both on the cell and the detail view. If we take a look at Twitter, right? Twitter, when you like something, in that Twitter feed, you see the like. And when you go to the detail of that tweet, you also see the like. Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll keep that here the same as we have. Going over states of the API. I thought there were more questions after this. Wait, did I miss a question? Oh, the first one, sorry. There is an issue with the, I'm sorry?
I actually have a question about,
yeah.
For Firestore, right? Because you can do real-time updates, and I was wondering, like, if I'm already fetching the items initially and I have a listener, should I just have a listener only?
Should you have a what?
Should I just have a listener only rather than fetching items?
You could have a listener if that works for you, sure.
Like, but could that replace like the initial fetch?
Yes, exactly. Do that.
Okay.
Very good. Next we have, there is an issue with the API regarding postal code query. Elaboration, I don't want to have anybody come out and say that was their question, but I guess I'll just go over it. From my experience, the postal code, we have 2 endpoints. We have a postal code endpoint and we have a city endpoint. Right? Yes? Am I alone here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me pull up
Alex, I was using both, and I put both parameters in my endpoint. Is that okay? And just make the user put their city and their postal code when they search?
So you have them.
I have them do both.
I would rather you architect it such that they could put either or.
Okay.
Wait, Alex, that was my question.
Okay.
But the problem with the city one is it doesn't give you as much information as with the postal code.
It's up to the user, right? And what Ticketmaster gives us. Like if Ticketmaster doesn't give us searches, that's fine. The user could be more fine-grained and say, give me stuff around some zip code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, does that work for you?
All right. I just like the way I did it better.
Okay. But just have them, make sure they have them enter in either or, like not forcing them to enter both of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Steering, can you elaborate? I think you put your hands up
Yeah,
there.
I think the if you search by postal code, they don't give you prices.
That's where you could use the detail. Yesterday I
I
spoke
think I
about
looked at. Yeah, I think I used the detail too, and I couldn't see the prices on there either.
for that same ID.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I can double check.
You could send me the ID later, like slack it to me and I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but the city, if you use city, it has more info.
Yeah, but we still don't want to lock. We don't want to lock the user into anything either.
Sorry?
We don't want to lock the user into anything.
Oh no! I was just worried about like the information I was getting.
Yeah. So see if the detail has more. It should have a price range. If not, send me that ID and I could take a look at it. And if it doesn't have a price, then just show $0 or whatever, or price not available.
You know, like the model doesn't have like the argument price at all.
Yes, so that'll be a nil
Okay.
property, correct? Like price range is nil.
Okay.
Right? And if it's nil, I just nil coalesce it to $0 or price not available.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
All right, cool. Moving back to this guy. Okay, last question here. Going over the states of the API. I guess the question is, can we go over the two states of the API there? Okay, so there's two states. One state is the museum state, where the user, everything that happens is museum-based, right? So if I bring up the app, if I bring up the app, this is the app here, API. So the app has two states. Currently, I am looking at Rick's Museum. Everybody?
Yes.
If I go to my settings here, it's Rick's Museum. If I change my API experience, this is the states we're talking about. There's two states. One state, Ticketmaster. Next state, Rick's Museum. Anything throughout the app works with those states. If I'm looking at favorites, I'm looking at favorites in that case here from Rick's Museum. If I change it to Ticketmaster, I'm looking at favorites from Ticketmaster. And I'm also looking at the search feed from Ticketmaster. So whatever state I'm in, that's the API I'm working with. I have two APIs, two states. If I change it, what we had earlier, we had Rick's Museum. So if I change it to Ticketmaster here, I submit, I go back to favorites, it's Ticketmaster here. And it shows me my tickets, my favorite tickets. Does that help clarify? Again, I don't know. Yeah, okay. So does that help you, or you want to go deeper there, or you want to have more questions? You can ask more questions. We have time. We have 28 minutes.
I have a question that's like an offshoot of like the switching between these things.
Sorry, Matt, let's go to Christian for him to finish, and then we'll come back to you. Is that cool?
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
So Christian, go ahead.
No, sorry. You just switched from your settings tab, right? The
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah. Again, that's beyond MVP, right? But I really suggested we have the settings early. But if you feel like it's too much for you, you could do sign in and sign out.
Okay.
Does that help you?
No, yeah. I was just confused for a second. But...
So the app has a bonus part of it. The bonus part is add a third tab with the settings. If you don't have a settings, you have to sign out and change your API experience.
Yeah, that's what I went over that with Aaron yesterday.
Okay. All right, cool. So that's good there. Matt, go back to you.
Yeah, okay. So for the changing of the API experience, I think this question might have been answered, but I just want to double back on it. Is it better for us to be saving the user settings locally, or should we be saving these settings and like preferred user experience on the database?
Definitely on the database, because my argument there, or my the user experience there is, if I am on the iPad, I'm using your app, I go to my iPhone, I was
Yeah.
watching my
Okay.
favorites from the Rijksmuseum. I went from my iPhone to the iPad. All of a sudden now I have to change my experience because it doesn't know my experience.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured as much. But was there something that we had to? I remember, like, I think on the first day you said there was something we had to persist or like save locally, and I
Uh,
don't. I thought it was that, but I could be wrong.
nothing locally. The only thing, there's nothing local here in the app. The only thing that's local is
Okay.
the current user. But here in the database user favorites, well, not favorites, but user. The user has an API experience,
Yeah.
and that's the API experience that works throughout the app. Whether I'm on iPad, iPhone, who knows? You make it for the tvOS as well.
Okay.
That user has that API experience. And whatever we did
Yeah.
today, whatever we did today with that DB user model, you guys could do a very similar thing with a DB user model, and they have those 4 properties or whatever properties you guys have. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing it on the database. I just wanted to like make
Okay.
sure before I put more time into it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Looks like we're gonna end early. Questions? How are we doing?
One quick
Yeah.
question. I'm using user defaults to save the state of the app, because I was noticing that, like, if I was in Rick's Museum and I just close the app down and log back into it, even though I'm like using the singleton to keep the state of the app when I'm in it, when I would close the app and go back in, it would be in Ticketmaster.
Can you walk
User
me
defaults is
through?
working, but I feel like I'm doing way too much.
You want to walk us through, like, walk me through what I should be doing to kind of like reproduce your error or whatever.
So say you set your settings to Rick's Museum.
Okay, so I did that. Submit that.
And then if you were to close out of the app.
So close the app. Well, kill the app, right? Kill it?
Yeah, like rerun it. And now that page, it would be in Ticketmaster.
For you.
Yeah.
And then we should be in the Rijksmuseum, correct?
Yeah.
So every time you launch the app, what functions get launched? Or what functions happen? What classes happen? We have the app
Every
delegate.
time you launch the app, it brings you to the search.
To the search, but we
like
have
it
the
keeps
app.
You logged in.
Very good. We have the app delegate, we have the scene delegate, we have the login view controller, and we have the tab controller as well, right? So somewhere in between there, before you get to the tab controller,
yep,
you need to update that session. So you need to make sure that your API experience is updated before you come to that controller.
Go to the website first, right?
Okay. I mean, it was working. It works with the user defaults, and then like originally I had it where it got the experience from the database, but I don't know. I'm just kind of lost with the singleton and keeping that.
We could take it offline.
Persistent.
We could definitely take it offline there. I could take a look at your stuff and get some feedback there. Cool?
Cool.
All right. Anything else? Like, what's your projected time of finish? Today, tomorrow?
For me?
Okay. When you projected to be done?
Friday at midnight.
Okay, cool.
No, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I know you keep working on it.
I feel like I'm putting in like 10 hours a day and not getting anywhere.
You're getting places. You're almost done there.
Kelby, you are lying. Okay.
Reach out if you need anything, okay? Kelby?
Okay, cool.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I want to understand this, like the app state issue. So on the user document, there is an API experience that's holding the whatever they selected as their experience or whatever they update, right?
Yeah.
But throughout the app, are we, to get that piece of information, are we using a get document? Or
I was suggesting if we had a user session like what Kelby's doing there, and the user
yeah,
session singleton always knows that user, the current user session.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I guess somewhere in there I must be resetting it to Ticketmaster
so
as the default.
you're not using a get document.
I was originally, that's what like I was using to get the API experience,
Okay.
like
So
using a listener.
But remember, every time you update that piece of data, you have to update the session as well.
Yeah.
What are we even talking about? I'm for real lost.
Yeah. What is user session?
I think it's a Kelby made item object thing.
And what exactly is it? What? All right. So when y'all say we have to get the user experience, that's because when the people them sign back in, they should be able to sign back into whatever it is that they chose the first time. Is that what that is? Or they don't?
Well,
they
it's
don't
just
get the first page again.
so when it's when you sign in, it lets you choose the experience, because I have it like Alex has it, where when you sign in, you're picking the experience, but then when it's already logged in, it doesn't save the experience. But I use user defaults, and I kind of thought I thought user defaults were kind of for preferences.
What do you mean by save the experience? Like when they log back in, they get to a screen and it's what? It's
when they exit the app, they're still logged in. So if you sign out and then sign back in, you can pick the user experience again. But if you were to close the app, it would take you back to Ticketmaster instead of Rick's Museum. But I'm using user defaults, and that works.
and that's because that is the Ticketmaster your default, or is it just the first?
Yeah,
one?
I think somewhere I must be having it set to Ticketmaster instead of.
Kelby, you suggested user defaults works for you, correct?
Yeah, I thought I remember when we did user defaults, it said that like one of the main things is to use it for settings, right?
So for that, use it currently. Like if user defaults works for you, keep using it.
And this is
But the
only
one second. So use user defaults. The only feedback we'll give you, like when I take a look at your code, is the same thing I suggested. Like if you have multiple devices, user defaults doesn't work for that experience.
Okay.
Right? But if you only on one device, that's fine with user defaults. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but if you have multiple, okay, I gotcha.
You got me? So option one, yeah. Option two. Option two would be the preferred way. If I have multiple devices, I always grab it from Firebase, correct?
Okay.
Okay, option
so,
one.
In that case, you would need a listener, right?
You need a listener or some like get documents every time you update the API experience. You want to update the session and you want to get the newest thing from Firebase.
Okay.
You could also fetch. Go ahead, sorry.
Where do you need the listener in the like where you loading the list of whatever?
You could, yeah. You probably definitely want to have a listener there.
So after you update the API experience, right? After the logins, when you need listener in your tab bar controller, right?
In here?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could do. Either you have a listener here or you have a refresh control, one of the two. But a listener would probably be better.
That's how you get the information from Firebase.
Yeah. Actually, not a list. You could do a listener, you could do get documents. I showed us both ways. So when I say Rembrandt and I press enter, it fetches the API. There's no Firebase. On this particular page right now, there's no Firebase. The only Firebase part is this part of my favorites?
Well, because I'm at that point where I can't, I'm saving my API experience on Firebase, but I'm trying to figure out how I retrieve it here, and it's not working.
To keep it easier for us here, it's Wednesday. Everybody just go ahead and use user defaults like Kelby's doing, right? And then store the API experience there. And anytime it gets updated, just update your user defaults property.
Alex, I have a question.
One second, before I go to that, I want to make sure we're clear with the user defaults part of it. Kelby, does that work for you?
Yeah, I had a listener. I originally had a listener in the yesterday, and then we talked about the singleton, so I think I just got mixed up.
Yeah. I don't want to make this user defaults. Yeah, this is not a production app. It's not a production app, right? It's a CTA to test what we could do, right? Use user defaults for now to get it working. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Everybody, please.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
All right, so let's say we are to do it where we update Firebase with an API experience. Couldn't we just use the API experience that's already saved to that user for when they log back in? And if they change, like if they updated, then inside of the update function, we would just update the user experience with whatever.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
update our picture. Like we just like do it the same way that we would, like, let's say for the profile picture, the same way that we would do our profile picture. We can't just do that for.
Oh,
the,
but there's one drawback, right? Because the user, the off user, doesn't have like a API experience.
No, right. But when we create one, we can't get it back once it's already sent up.
Yes, you can. You can. Like if you have a user object like we created today in class, like the DB user.
Right.
You could get the DB user for the current user that's logged in.
Well, can we also use like the source caching stuff in Firebase so we can deal with off user experience?
Yeah, you could do that as well.
Okay.
Any of those options work, but I want to keep it simple. MVP user defaults is fine.
Okay, got it.
I don't want us to complicate this app more than it's not a complicated app. The only part we're talking about back and forth here is API experience. And keep it simple, user defaults.
Alex.
Does that make sense, everybody, before I continue?
Yeah.
Should I stop putting time into putting it into the database?
It's definitely in the database as well. Like definitely have it on the database, but
Yeah,
as far as like the app is concerned, just use user defaults to like when they're changing back and forth.
Can I continue?
Yeah. You could continue. You could continue.
The original one. Okay.
Yep. If you're stuck, you could reach out to me if you want to continue that back.
Well, Alex.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is there anything wrong with using the Firebase? Like I have my API experience on Firebase, and I'm just like retrieving. Like,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what I'm doing here. But I want us to. It's already Wednesday. I want us to keep working on the app and not stuck with retrieving from Firebase there. So when the user logs in, you know the API experience. You have that in user defaults. If they change the API experience, you change it on Firebase as well. But use user defaults to keep track of it throughout the app.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So instead of using like a user session, use user defaults.
Well, I don't have a user session. I just have like a string that captures the experience, and I have my logic based on that string.
Okay, very good, very good. Kelby, that helps you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think I'm gonna go back to using the listener like I had it.
Yep. Anything that works for us, we could optimize after the fact. Anybody else here? We still talk about API experience, which is, I guess, the more challenging part of the app. We have 15 minutes. Mr. Eric.
Yo.
How you doing, buddy?
So like where I'm retrieving the experience type, right? I'm using a snapshot on the listener to retrieve the experience type from the user itself or whatnot. But every time I retrieve it, it's staying as Rick's Museum and whatnot. Like I'm even though it's changing on the database, it's changing on the database on Firebase, on the app itself, it's continuing to print the wrong thing. But when I go, like after I go further into the app and then I change it in the settings tab, it'll change on there on the database and it'll print that it changed. But when I go back, it's like my listener stopped listening. But I have it set up where the listener is set to remove on the view did disappear.
Right.
But it's continuing to do that. Like it's, if that makes any sense.
I think it's what happens is your one view controller cannot communicate to where you're trying to ask that other part of the data for.
Right.
Right. I think
even
if you have a listener, you need to communicate that listener information from view controller A to your next tab.
All right, that was what I was going towards, but then I passed out halfway through.
Yeah, I think. What was that?
The last part. What advice did you give him?
Basically, he either needs to do what we've been talking about with Kelby here. Either he does like a user defaults to keep track of the API experience. Because remember, if I go through different tabs in my app, like I have 3 tabs, A, B, C, right? Something from A doesn't know about B because they're different tabs, right? They're not segueing from one tab to the next. So if I want to communicate a piece of data, I could use a singleton, which I was hinting to you guys to use, a singleton to keep track of the API experience, or I could have a user defaults value keeping track of that. Because anyway in my app, I could say user defaults, get me the API experience. If the API experience changes, I could say user defaults, update that string for API experience. It's now Rick's Museum. In a different part of the app, I could simply retrieve it by saying user defaults, get me the value for Rick's Museum, get me the value for API experience. But anytime I do the API experience part, I also want to send it up to Firebase.
When you say a singleton, you just mean the static let.
Yeah, yep. So you could do that, or you could do user defaults. Because yeah, go ahead.
So in the user session, that's where we would have the listener, right?
Yeah, or get document.
Or get document.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's where you put the singleton to.
Yeah, exactly. So user session itself is a singleton, yeah.
So wait, and the user would just be a model for our own computer to get what we want from online. So we just have to put the same name into our model in order to just get what we want. Specifically, we could just pick what we want. It doesn't have to be everything.
Exactly. I mean, we only have 4 properties, so you could have just take all 4. I mean, you could have more in there if you want, but we have 4 for now. Yeah, go ahead.
So, and you put, just to confirm, you put, you had refactored our Firebase demo from in class into singleton.
The last part of it, yes. The very last part of it, it's a singleton.
What is the last part?
The one I refactored to singletons, the Firebase demo. So if you get clone, it's a singleton, like all 3 services.
Okay, all right, that's what
I refactored that, but in class, remember that I said I'll just refactor it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. So if we go to the Firebase demo, we could just clone it. I'll slack it out so we all have it. But if we're looking at what singletons look like, Firebase demo, right? So Firebase demo, the Firebase demo, Firebase services. So all the service classes are singletons, and this is the singleton right here. Right, the singleton is 2 lines, right? The singleton says, no longer can I simply say database service, open parens, close parens. That's not allowed because now it's a private initializer.
Okay.
Cool.
I think I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So I could just slug that out.
Wait. You said no longer can we do what?
Okay, let me just open up a playground and then we'll see what it looks like. Playground. Next. Let's put singleton here. We could all see my screen, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if we have a class called database service, right? That's a class, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I could instantiate a database service.
Okay, but you put
by saying database service like this, right? I could create multiple instances of this everywhere throughout my app, right? So far, so good. Tiffany?
Yeah.
Okay, but if I want to convert this to a singleton, I would start off by saying make the initializer private. So make the initializer private. And the only way I access it is through private. The only way I access it is through like a shared instance database service like that. And now if I play this, I get an error here because now I get an error saying database service initializer is inaccessible due to private collection. Do we see that?
Yeah, but if you do database.shared, it's like doing the same thing.
Exactly. So if I say database.shared, that's fine. And if I have a function in here.
Okay, got it.
If I have a function in here.
Private init first?
Yeah. So the part of the singleton is the initializer needs to be private, because the part of the singleton is throughout my app, I'm only using one instance of it, the same instance everywhere throughout the app. So now if I have this doc here, I could just say share dot get doc. Like that.
And get doc would be like the function where we actually like get the collection.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. Like if we were to convert this to like a user session, for example, user session, shared, whatever, get API experience, for example, which just returns like a string maybe.
Yeah.
Right, and then here you have your logic, here just return whatever, and now I could say let API experience equal to user session dot share dot API experience.
All right, so now like how would that, because if you're returning inside of the get API experience, inside of it you would just be updating, like, let's say we have an enum and something is like, if it's set to a specific experience,
Yeah,
then
you could create an enum. Exactly. This is like where I'm saying this is a comprehensive technical assessment, because now I could say create an enum called API experience, right?
And that's changed, and you could say whatever is in this is equal to what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Like
well, not what that is, but like whatever example you have, like whatever instance you have of this enum, when that's updated, you could say that inside the function you would say that it's returning whatever this is.
Exactly. Like this could just return, like right now we could convert this to return an API experience, right?
Yeah.
Which is an enum. And here I could just return a hard-coded thing that I'm just going to create dot X museum. Cool. And now what is
sorry, but if it's not hard coded inside of there,
then you would have to retrieve it from the database.
Okay.
Right.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
The only way to retrieve information from the, like, such as the experience type that we like, the API experience, the only way to do that is with a listener. Is that correct?
No. No. I could say public function get DB user. Remember we did both, right? We did both get documents and add snapshot listener. So example, if I have
where something, right?
Exactly. So I'm just writing fictional stuff here. Obviously, I don't have Firebase. So if I say DB collection and I say users here, I want to get some document ID. Document user ID. I pass in whatever. I get the current user. So we know how we say guard, right? Guard let user equal to auth, right? Dot current user. And then we do this. So here I have a user. I could say user dot UID, right? User UID. I could say get documents. I could say get documents here, or I could say add snapshot listener, right? Add snapshot listener. Again, the syntax here is just, right, that might not exactly be the syntax, but either I could get documents or I could have a listener. Everybody?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a singleton to review. This is the singleton here. This creates I'll actually say line 11 and 12. Singleton pattern. And what it does, it makes us use code like this. Like throughout my app, I could say user session.shared. It's the same instance. And then I could have an update user here too. Right? Here I could say, I could have a function called update DB user, whatever. Oh, we have a couple more minutes because I want you guys to take a break before the next meeting.
Oh,
so So we could have an update DB. We could have a get DB. We could be right. This is where we just use what we know, which we know a lot already. How to manipulate data, how to retrieve things using functions, how to use a singleton if we need to get state throughout the app, the same instance.
Alex.
Yes, sir.
Is this different from auth session? Is like user session is its own?
That would be
class?
different. That's its own class. Yeah.
Okay.
So for user session, like if we're this would specifically and only be for the experience.
Yep. Pretty much. Yep.
So when we're getting the database user, we're getting the database user experience. When we're updating the experience, and that would just be taking, like if we were to make an enum of it, taking whatever, like whenever, like let's say on mine I have a tap gesture on like a UI image, right? And when that image is tapped, then it's supposed to take, like it takes you into the project that's the theme of whichever one that you chose. Whenever that gesture is tapped is when I would update my enum, right?
Yep. Anytime you do a change to the user, you should update the user session and update Firebase. Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
And it would just be using the update function that we did together.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Or you probably need to change it up a little bit, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow, 11:30, right on point. Any other questions here? Again, the more challenging part of that app, we all realize now, is the API experience, right? Because other than that, would have been done already on Sunday, right? It's just an API, show data, you're done.
The API held me up a whole day and a half.
It's fine. There's some nested things here and there.
I do have a question. Like, so let's say like in the workplace and stuff like that, like it's okay for you to get stuck on something like that.
But you have to let your manager know immediately.
Okay.
Well, not immediately, but you go, you take a couple hours, and then if you said it's going to be due Tuesday, and then by Monday afternoon, you're like, oh my God, it's not going to be Tuesday. You need to update them right away and say, hey, there's some roadblocks there. And then in stand-up, that's why you have stand-up. That's why I tried to do stand-up yesterday, so we could see where everybody is. Because if there's any blockers, you need to let your manager know ASAP. Not like Friday afternoon. Oh, can I get an extension?
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
All right, cool. We'll end here. If there's any other questions, I think we have some port file issues. There were two fellows, right? Luba and somebody else with port file stuff happening. We'll help you guys offline there. Preferably after in the afternoon, just because I want to make sure everybody takes a break before we have the 12 o'clock meeting there. And then post the meeting, we'll have a debrief about the meeting, and then you guys go code. Cool, everybody?
Yeah.
Thumbs up here.
Thank you.
Thumbs up.
Hold on.
Look at that. Can we get a screenshot of everybody here? Can I take a screenshot? Can I see videos? Can we get a screenshot? No?
Yeah.
Who's coming on video?
Wait, a
Nobody's
screenshot
coming
of
on
like
video?
our faces?
Yeah.
Child, I look so ghetto right now.
Ah, come on. All right. Let's see if we get everybody here. I didn't hear from Greg today. Greg, what happened? Greg, you finished?
Hey, I'm here. No, just paying attention.
You done? Are you drained like all of us? I think David is crying. Howard, I want to see your face.
Take my hero.
Where's Matt? Shania, I'm not hearing you guys. Benvenido. Amini, I want to see your face. Lilia.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Let's get a class shot here. Come on. All right. I'll get it one on my end. I don't see something. Oh, I see Matt. Let me do one more. Matt came up. Amini.
No.
I'm not answering any more questions. All right, cool. Awesome, guys. So see you back at 12. There's a link there. We'll suck out the link again. What? Oh, one more. One more. One more. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Catch you at 12 o'clock. Awesome. You're welcome.
On the flippity flip.
See you.
Awesome.
Bye, Amini.
Bye,
Bye, Minnie.
Bye, Manny. Bye, Manny.
Sorry. Bye, Manny.
Bye,
Manny.